You are 30 years old. You have $0 invested. No portfolio, no serious savings, no money quietly growing in the background. And every time you see someone online talking about how they started investing at 18, bought property at 23, or hit $100,000 before 30, it feels like you missed the door, like there was a wealth-building train, and it already left without you. So the question becomes uncomfortable. If you are 30 with nothing invested, can you still become a millionaire? The honest answer is yes, but not by pretending time does not matter. Not by ignoring the years you did not invest, and definitely not by panicking into risky decisions because you feel behind. The real answer is this. Starting at 30 is not the problem. The real problem is using 30 as an excuse to wait until 40, because 30 is not too late. But it is late enough that your choices now start to matter more. And that is what this video is really about. Not fantasy, not overnight wealth, not a motivational speech that says everything will magically work out, but the actual money path from zero invested at 30 to a real shot at becoming a millionaire later. First, we need to clear something up. Being 30 with nothing invested feels late because you are comparing yourself to the perfect version of what you should have done. You should have started at 20. You should have bought stocks earlier. You should have understood compound growth before. You should have saved more from your first jobs. You should have avoided that debt, that car, that lifestyle, that phase where money came in and disappeared. But here is the problem with should have. It does not build anything. It only makes you stare backwards while time keeps moving forward. And money does not care how guilty you feel. It only responds to what you do next. So yes, starting earlier would have helped. That is true. Someone who starts at 20 has a longer runway. Their money has more time to grow. They can contribute less and still build a lot because time does more of the work. But if you are 30, you still may have 30 or 35 years before traditional retirement age. That is not a short amount of time. That is an entire financial life. The question is not, did I miss the best possible start? Maybe you did. The question is, do I still have enough time to build something serious? And the answer is yes, but you need to understand the 3 levers. There are only 3 main levers that can take someone from zero invested to millionaire status. How much you invest, how long you stay invested, and how your money grows over time. That is it. Contribution, time, growth. If one lever is weaker, another has to become stronger. If you start later, you may need to invest more. If your returns are lower, you may need more time or higher contributions. If you want to reach the goal faster, you may need to increase your income or control lifestyle creep more aggressively. This is why 30 is not a dead end. It just means you cannot afford to be vague anymore. Now let's use simple numbers. Imagine someone starts at 30 with $0 invested. If they invest about $550 per month for 35 years, and their money averages around 7% per year, they could reach roughly $1 million by age 65. Not guaranteed. Markets do not move in a straight line. Some years will be amazing. Some years will be terrible. Fees, taxes, inflation, and behavior all matter. But as a simple long-term example, the path is possible. Now compare that with someone who waits until 40. At 40, they only have 25 years until 65. To reach the same $1 million with the same example return, they may need closer to $1,200 per month. That is the real danger. Not being 30, waiting another 10 years. Because the cost of waiting does not show up immediately. It shows up later, when the monthly amount needed becomes much harder. At 30, the game is still forgiving enough to give you options. At 40, it is still possible, but the pressure rises. At 50, it can still be done, but the path usually requires much larger contributions, higher income, business ownership, real estate, or delayed retirement. So if you are 30 with nothing invested, the message is not, relax, you have unlimited time. The message is, you still have time, But this is the moment to stop drifting. And drifting is the real enemy. Most people do not fail because they are 30. They fail because they keep living like the future is far away. They get a raise and upgrade everything. They tell themselves they will invest when life calms down. They spend 10 more years being about to start, about to save, about to invest, about to pay off debt, about to get serious. And then one day, 30 becomes 40, and the same question becomes much heavier. This is why the first step is not even investing. The first step is accepting that your money needs a direction. Because when money has no direction, life will spend it for you. Rent will take some, food will take some, bills will take some, weekends will take some, subscriptions will take some, convenience will take some, a better apartment will take some, a newer car will take some. And whatever is left at the end of the month is usually too tired to build wealth. That is why people say, I don't have money to invest. Sometimes that is completely true. Some people are underpaid, overcharged, and carrying real financial pressure. But for many people, the problem is not that no money exists. The problem is that the money has no job before it disappears. Wealth building after 30 usually begins with creating the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is more important than looking successful, more important than your salary alone, more important than how impressive your life looks from the outside. Because the gap is where your future gets funded. If you earn $4,000 a month and spend $4,000, your wealth building gap is zero. If you earn $6,000 and spend $6,000, the gap is still zero. A higher income does not automatically create wealth. Only the money you keep and use properly can do that. That is why lifestyle creep is so dangerous after 30. At 22, a lot of people are still figuring life out, but by 30, incomes may start rising. Careers may become more stable. People may begin earning the most money they have ever earned. And this can become a turning point. But it can also become a trap. Because once income rises, the world immediately offers you a more expensive identity, a better car, a nicer place, better restaurants, better holidays, better clothes, more convenience, more comfort. And none of it feels reckless. It feels earned. You worked hard. You are not a student anymore. You want your life to reflect your progress. But if every raise becomes a lifestyle upgrade, your future never catches up. You become a more expensive version of the same financial stress. So if you are 30 with zero invested, one of the most powerful things you can do is this. Do not only increase your income, increase the gap. When your income rises, let part of your lifestyle improve. But let part of your future improve too. That might mean investing 10%, then 15, then 20. It might mean increasing contributions every time you get a raise. It might mean keeping your car longer than your ego wants. It might mean choosing the apartment that gives you breathing room, not the one that absorbs your entire raise. This is not about living miserably. It is about making sure your future is not always last in line. Now, the second step is to start before you feel fully ready. This is where many people get stuck. They think investing requires perfect knowledge. They need to understand every term, every chart, every stock, every economic cycle, every tax rule, every strategy. And because they do not feel ready, they delay. But investing is not learned only by reading. It is learned by doing carefully. Starting small teaches you how markets feel. It teaches you that your account will go up and down. It teaches you that red days are normal. It teaches you not to panic every time the news gets loud. It teaches you the difference between a long-term plan and an emotional reaction. That experience matters because one of the biggest dangers for someone starting at 30 is panic. You feel behind, so you may want to catch up quickly. And that feeling can make bad ideas look attractive. A risky stock, a crypto gamble, a business scheme, a guaranteed return, a shortcut from someone who sounds confident online. But if you feel late, the worst thing you can do is destroy the money you finally started building. You do not need a miracle investment. You need a repeatable system. For most beginners, that usually means keeping things simple, a diversified long-term approach, regular contributions, low unnecessary fees, emergency savings so you do not have to sell investments at the wrong time, and a plan you can actually stick to when life gets messy. Because the boring plan you follow for 30 years is usually more powerful than the exciting plan you abandon in 6 months. Now here is where 30 can actually be an advantage. At 30, you may not have the time advantage of a 20-year-old, but you may have something else. You may have more income, more maturity, more pain from past mistakes, more clarity about what you do not want, more ability to stay consistent. A 20-year-old may have time, but they may not have discipline. They may not earn much. They may not understand money yet. They may spend years starting and stopping. But a 30-year-old who finally wakes up can move with intention. That matters. Because wealth is not built by age alone. It is built by behavior repeated over time. If you start at 30 and become serious, you can still pass the version of yourself who started earlier but never stayed consistent. That is the part people forget. The person who starts at 20 but quits at 24 is not automatically ahead forever. The person who starts at 30 and stays consistent for 30 years is dangerous. Not flashy, not loud, but dangerous in the quiet way that money becomes powerful. Month after month, year after year, raise after raise, investment after investment. Suddenly the person who thought they were late has built something real. But to do that, you need to avoid the millionaire fantasy. Becoming a millionaire is not just hitting a number and suddenly becoming free. $1 million in 30 years will not feel the same as $1 million today because inflation changes purchasing power. And depending on where you live, $1 million may mean very different things. For one person, it may be a comfortable retirement base. For another, it may be only part of the plan. For someone with high expenses, it may not feel like enough. So the goal is not just to worship the number. The goal is to build a financial life that gives you options, a growing portfolio, lower debt, more emergency savings, better habits, more income potential, more control over your time, more ability to make decisions from calm instead of panic. The millionaire number is useful because it gives you a target, but the real transformation happens before you get there. It happens when you stop seeing money as something that just passes through your hands. It happens when you stop waiting for future you to fix everything. It happens when you start treating every raise, every monthly contribution, every avoided debt, and every invested dollar as part of the same path. That is the shift. You're not just trying to become rich someday. You're becoming the kind of person who builds. And that identity change may be more important than the math. Because if you still see yourself as someone who is bad with money, you will sabotage progress. If you still believe wealth is only for other people, you will hesitate to start. If you still think small amounts do not matter, you will keep leaking money. If you still think 30 is too late, you may use that belief as permission to do nothing. But if you see yourself as someone who is building from zero, the story changes. Zero is not shameful. Zero is a starting point. And starting points are powerful because they make the path clear. If you are at zero, your first goal is not 1 million. Your first goal is $1 invested, then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, then 25,000, then 100,000. And once you hit that first 100,000, everything starts to feel different. Not because you are rich yet, but because your money finally starts helping in a way you can see. A 7% year on $10,000 is $700. Nice, but not life-changing. A 7% year on $100,000 is $7,000. That is when people start understanding the machine. Your money is no longer just sitting there. It is working beside you. And that is why the first part of the journey can feel so slow. From 0 to 10,000, most of the work comes from you. From 10,000 to 100,000, the habit gets stronger. From 100,000 onward, the money starts becoming a more visible part of the engine. That is why you need patience. The beginning is supposed to feel slow. The beginning is not proof that it is not working. The beginning is where the machine is being built. So can you still become a millionaire if you are 30 with zero invested? Yes, but not if the plan is vague, not if you wait for perfect conditions, not if every raise disappears, not if you chase shortcuts, not if you keep telling yourself you are too late. The path is simple to understand, but not always easy to live. Create the gap. Invest consistently. Increase contributions as income rises. Avoid high-interest debt. Keep your lifestyle from swallowing every raise. Stay diversified. Keep an emergency fund. Do not panic when markets fall. Do not compare your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20. And most importantly, do not wait another 10 years to become the person who starts. Because the version of you at 40 will either thank you or resent you. They will either look back and say, "I'm so glad I finally started." Or they will ask, "Why did I use being 30 as an excuse to lose another decade?" That is the real decision. Not whether 30 is too late, whether today becomes the beginning. Because one day, you will be 40 either way. Then 50, then 60. The time will pass whether you invest or not. The only question is what will be growing while it passes. If nothing is growing, then time only makes you older. But if your habits are growing, your savings are growing, your investments are growing, your knowledge is growing, and your income is growing, then time becomes part of the plan. That is how a person starts at zero and changes their entire money path. Not overnight, not perfectly, not without setbacks, but one serious decision at a time. So if you are 30 with nothing invested, you have not failed. You are not disqualified. You are not too late to build wealth. But you are at the point where waiting becomes expensive. And that means the best time to start was probably years ago. But the second best time is not someday. It is now.